I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was 39 years old. When you've gotten knocked down 2 times and then 3 times, you just don't understand why. I absolutely wanted to give up. I was over it. I didn't want to deal with it anymore. My whole motto for 2020 was "Come, Lord Jesus, come." I just wanted him to come back so that I didn't have to deal with it anymore. I think I've always had a pretty strong faith, but going through it all has made my faith grow. Watching my sister go through it and how she handled herself and how, she pointed to God in every breath she took helped me learn that strength too. I definitely had days where I didn't have hope, where I just felt so beat down. I had to just refocus on who God is. I have definitely learned to be patient in this journey. I couldn't even count how many doctor's appointments I've been to, and of course you wait at a doctor's appointment. And then you might get tested, and then you wait for the test results. Or you're just waiting for the surgery date to get the tumor out because you don't want it there anymore. Waiting is hard. There's a thing called scanxiety, where you have this anxiety of what your scans are going to come back. After one of my scans, I had to wait weeks before they were done, and every single day it feels like a year. It's hard to be patient while you're waiting. But then I'm in a perpetual season of waiting because I'm always waiting to see what's going to happen next. On the negative side, when is it coming back? On a positive side, maybe I can not have cancer ever again.
Morning. So 2002, a climber by the name of Aaron Ralston was not a climber at the time. He actually worked as an engineer for Intel. This is him on your screen. But he decided at 27 years old that that was not the career he wanted for a life. And so he thought it was too boring, too predictable, and he decided to quit his job and instead set his sights on becoming a professional mountain climber. I mean, who doesn't, right? I'm gonna quit my job. What do I become? Professional mountain climber. So that's what Aaron decided to do. He was gonna swap out Intel for professional climbing. And so one of the earliest things that Aaron decided to do was he was to kind of make his mark in the climbing world by being one of the first people to have grown up in Colorado since 12 in his family to say, I climbed all of the 14ers in Colorado. So the 14ers are the mountains in Colorado. They're over 14,000 feet. There is, if you want a fun little rabbit trail of debate in the climbing world, you can go down this road. But there is technically 58 or 53, depending on who you ask and how you define the summit. But he decided, I'm going to climb them all. That's going to be kind of my entry into the world of climbing, make my mark a little bit. So he decided that's how he was going to get started. So to do that, a year into it, he had already begun to develop quite a resume of climbing and ability, but he decided to kind of add to his portfolio some different kind of climbing. So he decided to do some canyon climbing, which took him outside of Colorado and into Utah. Now, he was already a pretty decent climber only a year later. He had done some pretty impressive climbs, was developing his career very quickly, very aggressively, even starting to become a little bit of a name in the climbing world. But on this particular day, he made a couple of mistakes. One is that he would choose to climb alone. and not only climb alone, but he was climbing a little bit outside of his kind of zone. This was not the climbing that he did. This is canyon climbing, very different than the kind of climbing he was used to, and he decided to do it alone. Second mistake is he decided when he went to tell nobody where he was going. He wanted to kind of just disappear for a little bit and was going to climb not only alone, nobody knew where he was going to be at. And mistake number 3, he brought no communication for him. So no phone, no satellite, no anything, no way to tell anybody where he was at if anything went wrong. Just supposed to be a day climb, so he brought minimal water and minimal food, and everything was going well on the climb up the canyon wall. And then on the way down, he passed the same boulder that he had passed on the way up, a boulder that was later determined to be about 800 pounds. And that boulder, for reasons he'll never know, began to lodge itself free after he passed it on his descent. And at one point, it started to shimmy loose and then started coming down the canyon walls. He tried to actually move, dip and move and dodge. And anyways, couldn't get away from it. And that canyon ended up catching it in a narrower spot. The only problem was where it caught that boulder, it caught his arm as well. So it came down from just below his elbow to the tips of his fingers and wedged his arm right up against the canyon wall. So you can imagine all kinds of panic, all kinds of fear, the adrenaline, all that happens in an instant, and then he passes out. When he comes to, he starts to try to figure out how to get himself free and what he can do, but he's in there. He is wedged in there. And an hour goes by, and an hour turns into 2 hours. 2 hours turns into 8 hours. 8 hours turns into 24 hours. 24 hours turns into 48 hours. 48 hours turns into 36 hours. It was around this point that Aaron, when he told the story later on, would tell people that that's right around when he had depleted both his food and his water. He would end up being pinned to that canyon wall for a total of 5 days. And he realized at one point that he was going to die there. Nobody else was climbing. Nobody was coming through. Nobody knew where he was at. And there was one point where he realized that his arm was also, he'd been pinned there so long that his arm was completely destroyed and even beginning to decay. And so he thought the only choice that he had was to somehow try and remove his own arm. And so he dug around in his backpack and he found a pocket knife that he had brung, small pocket knife with a blade that was as dull as it gets. And he started to probe his own arm to figure out if he could actually, in fact, cut through it. Now, there's a movie that's been made about this called 127 Hours, if you want to see all the gory details. But the long and the short of it is, what Aaron finally realized is that knife, because of the damage to his arm, would be able to get him through the flesh and the muscle, not the bone. So at one point, he had to leverage with his own body weight up and then down to break both bones in his arm, and then proceeded to cut the arm off. Used the plastic tubing from his Camelback that he was previously drinking out of before he ran out of water as a tourniquet, tied it all off, climbed the rest of the way down, hiked out of the canyon, past a pool of dirty water that had a dead bird in it 5 days ago when he came in, so who knows how long it had been there. He'd been so thirsty at this point, drank out of that, which I guess if you've already cut off your arm, what's a little bit of dirty dead bird water, So he drinks the water, gets out. On his way out, he's kind of in and out, almost passing out, passes a couple with a family. They're hiking for the day. They're able to call and rescue, and they chopper him out. And here's why I tell you that crazy story. Because there are times in life that something can hit us in a way that it feels like not only does it pin us into a place we don't want to be, but it keeps us there. Like, I have a friend that tells me all the time, anybody can go through anything for a moment. But what about when the moment turns into an hour? Turns into 10 hours? Turns into 48 hours? Turns into 127 hours? Like, how do we get through those moments? Because we also said last week when we started this series that those are moments that don't just happen in a physical sense. They actually have the ability to walk us into really a spiritual kind of moment that feels very similar. Like we're stuck in a place we don't want to be and we don't quite know how to get out of it. And sometimes those moments can pass by very quickly. They're awful, but they come and they go. And then there's other moments where we're just stuck there, hour, after day, after year, after season. And these moments, like when a painful moment hits our life, especially one that makes us go, okay, God, where are you? Like, what are you doing? Do you even care that I'm going through this? Like, those moments are hard enough as they are. But they're only compounded when they just go on and on and on. And there's no end in sight at times. It looks like it's going to change or turn around. I mean, half the time what makes those moments difficult is that they're moments of pain that produce all kinds of questions. Matter of fact, I would say many times they're moments of pain because of the questions. Questions like, God, when will you answer this? When will you do something? When will you heal someone? Why the cancer? Will I ever overcome the anxiety that's overcoming me? And it's the questions that lead us to these places of pain, all of which can oftentimes put us in what we called last week, which is the dip of despair. These places where, we're kind of trekking along in our journey with God, going up, and then all of a sudden we just dip down. And we likened it to the spot on Everest on the south side when you're going towards the summit. There's a spot called the Hillary Step, and it's pretty close. You're above 8,000 meters at this point. You're close to the summit, but to get there, you actually have to traverse down into this dip and then scale up a 40-foot rock wall. It is one of the hardest places that you have to traverse on Mount Everest before you get to the top. And ironically, it's just shy of the summit where instead of all the up and up and up and up, you have to go down before you go up anymore. We go through this spiritually as well. These places where we're walking with God, life is good, He makes sense, and then all of a sudden, bam, something comes out of nowhere. It's a phone call, it's a tragedy, it's an emotion, it's a relationship where something comes out of nowhere, and it feels like it just thrusts us into this dip. We're kind of going down in our walk with God because suddenly He doesn't make sense, life doesn't make sense, life is frustrating, it's overwhelming us, and it seems like there's no end in sight. Last week, we wrestled through this idea from the book of Habakkuk with the prophet saying, hey, this is our reality right now. And so, God, where are you in the middle of all of this? Well, this week, we're going right back to Habakkuk. We're going to be in chapter 2, where his question kind of progresses a little bit from, God, where are you? To, okay, God, how long are we going to have to be in this place and in this season? So I want to pray for a moment and just ask that God would speak to us in the kind of clarity that we need. Because one of the risks and the dangers of being in these moments, and this is why I think, may God please speak to us, is that the longer we're in a dip, is that the more desperate we become. I mean, we intentionally made sure in this series that we didn't just talk about the dip last week and then we move on to better days this week. Like, we're going to actually sit in the dip. So if you're living in the dip, if you have these moments of dip in life, like, they don't pass by very quickly. But here's the danger. The longer you're in them, the more desperate we can become. And if we're not careful, we can make decisions about who God is and who He isn't when we're in that dip that can effectively misdefine Him in a way that kind of spiritually mutilates ourselves, kind of like Aaron did with his own body, by cutting ourselves off from God instead of wrestling with Him to understand Him better. So let me pray that God would help us to do that. Jesus, I just come before you this morning and acknowledge, Lord, that you are here in this place. Acknowledge that you also, being here, you have a desire to speak with us. God, I think also about the idea that you let us wrestle with you. I mean, the only way we can wrestle with you is that you allow us. You're God. You could deny any of our questions, any of our doubt, any of our challenge. You could have put Habakkuk in his place from the minute he opened his mouth, but you allowed him to wrestle. The only way we get to wrestle is because you let us, and I think you let us because you long for us to. I know, Jesus, that without the wrestle, I think I might have faith in you, but I don't know if I would have the relationship I have with you. And so, God, I pray that you would help us to be people that know how to wrestle. But I also know that in the same way that you long to be present to us this morning, so does the enemy. And because it's in the place of wrestle that I think we most meet you, it's the place that he tries to keep us most from going to. And so, God, I just say this right now to the enemy. Enemy, you have no power here. You are not welcome here. Your voice is nothing but lies. And so be gone from this place and be gone from these people. That, Holy Spirit, your voice would be what we hear. Only your voice, with clarity and compassion and tenderness and truth. And so help my words to honor your words, to honor your Son, Jesus Christ, Father. And anything that doesn't, either take it from my mouth or take it from our ears. And I pray this in your name. Amen. All right, we are going to take a quick moment, and we're going to, before we go any further, I want to take up our offering this morning and just tell you how much I appreciate you for all your generosity and what we do. Like you guys know this, right? We are having an unbelievable impact that God lets us have as a church, not just here in the Holland, in the greater Holland area, but also regionally and even globally. And that's because of you. Like, that's not just because of the staff. You are Ridgepoint. Like, you are making that happen. And, still being a little bit newer to Ridgepoint and learning a lot of what we do and who we are, I'm getting more and more familiar with Reach and Restore that we do every year. If you're newer like me and you're still trying, what's Reach and Restore? There's one Sunday where everything that comes in goes out. Every penny of it we send away, which you guys know it's weird, right? Like, it's weird in the church world. That's good weird, but I'm just saying a lot of churches are like, wait, you give it and then you get, no, that's different. Yeah, I love it. I love it because it just speaks, I think, to such a generosity of the heart that defines this place. So I just want to say thank you for giving. We got buckets that are going to come down, and I just want to say to you, those of you that give, thank you for your generosity. There are people whose lives are genuinely being transformed because of all the things that Ridgepoint does and that makes up what it means for us to be a church. This is a part of it. It's an important part, but it's only a part, but it is a part. And so to those of you that play this part, I just want to say thank you. So as the buckets come down and as they get passed around, those of you that are a part of this moment, you know what to do, so do it. And those of you that aren't, I just invite you into it. This has been one of the things that's been exciting for Nicole and I as a couple joining Ridgepoint in the last number of months is to be able to join with every part of who we are. And that means our giving as well. And so we're in this with you. And I'm just thankful to be able to do it. So, all right, here we go. Habakkuk has been our guide since last week, and he will be through next week when we wrap up this series. Habakkuk is a prophet in the Old Testament, finds himself a part of a group of prophets called the minor prophets. In the Old Testament, there's two groups of prophets. There's the majors and the minors. It has nothing to do with the importance of what they write. It has everything to do with how much they write. So you got Isaiah with 66 books, and you got Habakkuk with 3. It's all about how much. It's not about importance. I said this last week. I'll say it again. I think even though only 3 books long and a minor prophet, this is probably one of the most important, meaningful, and impactful books in the Bible. Because this is a book that will teach us and show us how to wrestle with God in a way that I think is so critical that we understand. I'm going to say what I prayed a minute ago. The only way you and I get to wrestle with God is that he allows it. And if he allows it, it's because he longs for it. And I think he longs for us to wrestle because I'm telling you, without wrestling with God, you might have faith in him, but I would question the actual intimacy of your relationship with him. My relationship with God, my knowing him and being known by him has been so formed in some of the most desperate moments of my life. Not the great ones. Love the great ones. I love the still waters and lying beside it like David once talked about. But I would tell you, it has been in the valleys of darkness that I have most met God and begun to learn how to trust him, relate with him, and trust over my life to him. Which is why I think it is so important that we understand, okay, who was Habakkuk and why was he writing and what was he writing about? Well, Habakkuk was writing during a time which, frankly, was not a great time to be an Israelite. Like the Hebrew nation, they had their moments of up and their moments of down. There were times that they were at the apex. They were at the top. This is not one of those moments. This is a moment where it is not good to be a Hebrew. There are invading nations. There is poverty, injustice, wickedness. There has been no good godly leadership for generations. They have been broken leaders, perverse leaders, all about what they can get from the people, not how they can lead the people back to the Lord. Like this is a bad time. As things are crumbling internally, things are crumbling externally. All the nations that want Israel wiped off the map, they're watching this happen, and they're taking advantage of it. So they're moving in. So everything about Israel right now is beginning to crumble and fall apart. And all of that has led to a level of suffering in the nation that has Habakkuk kind of flipping the roles of what a prophet typically does. Your prophets in the Old Testament had one primary job: take the words of God to the ears of the people. Well, because of what Habakkuk sees happening and all of the injustice and all of the suffering, what he's done is he's flipped that script and he's taking the questions of the people to the ear of God. And he literally begins to embody his own name. Habakkuk's name means to wrestle. And that is literally what he does. He essentially puts God on trial. And he begins to question God's character. He even takes the things that are said about God by God and put them up to God and say, hey, this is who you said you are. You don't seem to be living up to it right now. And he questions him, he challenges him, and he throws all these accusations at God about what God seems to be allowing and not doing and how he seems to be indifferent to the suffering of his people. And so here we go, because last week Habakkuk was very much in what we call the dip. And he's still in the dip right now. And really quick, by way of review, we said that when we're in the dip, you got a couple of options when you're in a dip, if you remember. Option number 1, when you're in this kind of season of spiritual dip, you're like, God, where are you? What are you doing? How long? You can do one of a few things. First thing that you can do is you can go back to an easier place in your walk with God. So when you're climbing Mount Everest, you have 4 main camps that you have to get through, 5 including base camp. Every camp that you progress to gets more and more difficult. The oxygen gets thinner, the mountain gets more harsh, it gets more bitterly cold. Like every time you go a little higher, it gets a little bit harder. And I think the same could be true many times in our pursuit of God. It's like the further we go with him, it's amazing, it's incredible, but it also introduces new challenges. And so part of what we can do in the moment of the dip is go, I'm going to go back to a time when it was easier, when it made more sense. I'm going to go back to camp 3. I'm going to go back to camp 2. And this is where we said last week, you just kind of learn to live with that Christian phony facade where everything's always good. We don't talk about the difficulties. We don't talk about the challenge. We never really get real. We don't go deep. Everything's kind of at a surface level. We're more religious than we are relationally intertwined with the God of creation because it's just easier to go back to an easier time where God made more sense. Another option is we just quit altogether, where we just say, you know what, forget this. God doesn't make sense. This isn't what I expected, and we just bail. We walk away from the church, we walk away from him, and we just give up. And we conclude, I'm not climbing anymore. The third option is that we actually recreate God into something a lot easier and more manageable. We said last week this would almost be like climbing to the top of Bittersweet and just saying you're at Everest. Getting to the top of the dunes and going, Everest, right? You come up with a smaller accomplishment and you define it as the largest accomplishment. And we can do this spiritually as well. I see a whole lot of this happening in the church world right now. It's where we take the complexity, the difficulty, the mystery of God, and we just get rid of it because it doesn't make sense. This is a friend of mine that will often say, I just can't accept that God fill in the blank. And so because of that, I have watched him over years progressively just begin to strip away who God really is and make God into this version that he can put in a nice, neat little box that makes sense to him, that's more manageable, that's more predictable. And I've often told him, I don't think at that point you're actually worshiping God. When he looks like you, acts like you, is as predictable as you, you're kind of worshiping you. Like you can't just recreate him into something that makes more sense. If we're to really pursue God, we have to pursue him in all of his complexity, in all of his difficulty, and in all of his layers. It's like Jeremiah 33 says, cry out to me and I will answer you with great and unsearchable things that you do not know. Like this is the promise of God. When you cry, I'll answer, but I'll answer with mystery. And so we have to learn to embrace all of who he is, not try and redefine God and recreate God into a simpler, easier, more manageable version. Then there's the fourth and the final option, which is what Habakkuk does. Which is I'm going to wrestle with God. It won't look pretty. I won't say all the right things. I'm going to bring the fullness of my anger, my doubt, my frustration, my questions. I'm going to bring it all to the ear of God with no restraint. And I'm going to learn to wrestle. And so Habakkuk in this place and in the dip, this is what he's doing. And he's wrestling. And last week, he threw up all kinds of questions to God, and God answered back. And some of what God answered back with wasn't what Habakkuk wanted to hear. And so he throws more questions at God and begins to even challenge God's very character. And then this is where we pick up in week 2, with Habakkuk still very much in the dip, challenging God's character in verse 1 of chapter 2. And so I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts, and I will look to see what he will say to me and what answer I am to give this complaint. He says, I will stand my watch and station myself on the ramparts. You know what a rampart is? If you think like a castle, and you think the path along the top of the castle wall, that's a rampart. It's a place where you can stand above the city to be able to look out and get perspective that you wouldn't have if you were lower. It's where you wait to see what's on the horizon. It's where you listen to see what's coming. And there's this moment where Habakkuk, he accuses God, he questions God, and then he says, and now I'm going to stand, and I'm going to wait, and I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen for what it is that you have to say that I would answer back with and that you would say back to me. And we're going to do a song right now, and it might seem like a little bit of an odd place because it's right in the middle of everything, but here's why we're going to do it, because sometimes I think we can strip the humanity out of the characters of the Bible. These are real people. Like Habakkuk is not a story, he was a man that had all the things that we have. Love for life, frustration with life, sadness, joy, confusion over what God does and doesn't seem to do at times. And there's a point where he, like many of us, is standing there going, God, will you please just say something? Please say something right now. And I'm going to stand on my ramparts. I'm going to watch. I'm going to wait. And I'm going to listen. But I'm asking you, God, would you say something? Because if you've walked with God any length of time, you've been there in those places yourself. I have. Where I've told him, Jesus, I will follow you anywhere, but please, 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 don't be silent. Not when I'm in a dip. Just speak and say something. So just for a minute, would you just let maybe the words of this song put us emotionally where I think Habakkuk may have been, with a desire for God to say something.
Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'll be the one if you want me to. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I'm feeling so small. It was over my head. I know nothing else. And I will stumble and fall. I'm still learning to love, just starting to crawl. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I would have followed you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. And I will swallow my pride. You're the one that I love, and I'm saying goodbye. Say something, I'm giving up on you. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to you. Anywhere I would have followed you. Oh, say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something, I'm giving up on you. Say something.
I don't know if you've ever been there where you feel like that's been your cry to God. Like, I don't want to give up on you, but I just need you to say something because I feel like I'm on the brink of it. Maybe it's not even a full give up. Maybe it's not a full walk away from him, but there's just a part of you that's about to give up. Years ago, when I first started off in ministry, and there's an idea sometimes that church, especially if you work in the church, that it's all perfect. We're still people, we're broken, and we do all kinds of dumb stuff to ourselves and to each other. And I worked at a church, brand new out of college, brand new into ministry, where I saw some of the dark underbelly of this particular church that had a lot of dysfunction to it. And after a couple of years of living in that and some experiences that were pretty horrific, I decided I don't think I can do this anymore. And I remember telling God, I said, listen, I'll believe in you. I will love you. I will follow you for the rest of my life. But I can't work. I can't do this. Like, I'll go back doing something else. And I remember for a season, like saying, God, you got to speak or I'm done. I'm going to walk away from all of this. I can't do this anymore. And he was just silent. And there was this one conference I remember being at, and it was kind of the last straw for me where I remember saying, God, this is it. If I come home from this and you haven't said something, I don't think I'm done. I don't think I can do this anymore. I quit. And it got to the end of the conference, and I felt like I was pretty resolved in that, and I hadn't heard anything, and I was definitely in a dip. And at the end of that conference, I heard very clearly, very simply, I heard God say, I know you feel like you're grounded right now, like your wings have been clipped, but if you give me time, I'll make you fly again. And that was all I needed. I didn't need to know what that meant. I didn't need to know anything else. I just needed to know he said something to me. And I went back and doubled down. Like there are just moments in life that we desperately need God to say something, even if it doesn't make sense. We need him to say something so that we can make some kind of sense in the moment we're in that gives us the strength to continue to push forward. I also think, I think for some of us in the room, let me just address this reality. Some of you, you're like, hey man, I'm not even walking with Jesus. Like I don't even know if there is a God yet. I'm trying to figure all that out. And because some of us, here's where you're at. You might be in a dip and you're going, I don't know how to keep walking, or I don't know what to do in this dip. I don't know what to make sense of or how to make sense of God in this moment. But there's some of us that maybe you're going, dude, I'm not even in the journey. Like I've actually decided not to move towards him because I feel like I'm in a dip. Like, because I feel like things in life have just gone wrong, that I've concluded, how can there be a God if this is the place I'm in right now? And here's the thing. I wish there was a magic answer to make sense of all of that so that you would go, oh, yes, there still must be a God, and so I'll pursue him. But anybody that tells you they can answer that and solve that with some kind of, they're lying to you. But here's what I would say. What if the dip isn't evidence that there is no God, but it is the place where you'll meet him? If you push into it and you pursue him and you do what this man Habakkuk did and cry out to him and say, okay, if you're there, say something back. What if the dip isn't supposed to be the place that confirms for you that he doesn't exist, but it creates the introduction? Because I think it can. But how do we survive it when we're in the middle of it? Like, how do we live through it when it's happening to us? Because here's the thing, man. In the church world, we'll say things oftentimes like, hey, the best is yet to come, or our best days are in front of us. And we'll say that like to us as a church, and we'll say that to us as individuals. Hey, your best days are yet to come. The best is in front of you. But there's some of you right now that had I said that to you a year ago, it would have been an absolute lie because this last year has been your worst year. Like, what if the truth is, for some of you in this room, your best year is not going to be this year, it's going to be your worst? What if the best isn't to come, but the worst is to come this year? What if actually some of your worst days are in front of you? And it's not that I want to live in this like sulky Eeyore place of depression, but here's why I bring it up, because I think sometimes the church can get so focused on hype that we miss hope. We want to have this hyped environment. We're always excited. We're always eager. We're always looking ahead. It's always going to be better. It's better. It's better. It's better. It's better. There's one guy who was famous for this in the church world years ago. I mean, every time you would hear him get up to preach, or every time he would talk about the next Sunday to come, he's like, it's going to be the best Sunday ever. It's going to be better than it's ever been. You got to come to our church this Sunday. It's always hype, 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 hype. Ironically, just last night, somebody sent me a clip of his where he kind of disappeared off of the scene for years. Well, he lost his marriage, became an alcoholic, and got kicked out of the ministry. Because he was so good at creating hype that there was no substance behind it. Now, I don't want us living as depressed people going, oh my gosh, what if this year is my worst year ever? But here's what I also don't want. I don't want us as a church trying to manufacture this idea that every year must be our best year ever, because for some of us, it will not be. But what's better than hype is the hope of Jesus Christ that gives substance in the middle of everything falling apart, that gives platform to stand on, that gives something for us to hold on to and to be held by. It's what gets us through moments where life goes upside down. Hype doesn't do that. Hype is gone the minute the service is over. Hype is gone the minute the rally's done. Hype is gone the minute the guy with all kinds of passion walks away. Hype is over as quick as it comes. Hope is what lasts and what is sustainable. But true hope always begins here, defining reality. And this is exactly what Habakkuk is doing. Habakkuk is defining reality, and reality is our best days do not look like they're in front of us. Like there's no Annie breakout song in the middle of Habakkuk. The sun will come out tomorrow, bet your bottom dollar. Y'all didn't know I could sing, did you? No, it's more like Habakkuk's going, tomorrow looks worse than today. Like, it's getting bad. As bad as that tune and tone just was. Like, it's not looking good on the horizon. There is no better day to come for Habakkuk. And so his question to God is the question that many of us have often had is, okay, God, so how in the world am I going to survive this? How do we exist through this? And here's the crazy thing. God will speak to him just like he did last week. And we don't know how long. Habakkuk said, I'm going to stand on the ramparts. I'm going to watch. I'm going to wait. I'm going to listen. But there is a point that God does speak. I don't know if it was a minute, a day, a month, but there is a point where God does speak back to him. The difficulty is what God does say back to him, it's not any easier to embrace than what God said to him last week when he finally spoke to him. So go back to chapter 2. This is what he says. Then the Lord replied, write down this revelation and make it plain and put it on tablets that a herald may run with it. He's saying, listen, what I'm about to say isn't just for you. It's going to be for everybody. So get it recorded because everyone's going to need to hear this. And here's his response back. For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not always prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. So here's God's answer back, essentially, is he says, all right, Habakkuk, you want me to answer? I'm going to answer. It's not always going to be this way. I have an answer. I have a resolve. But Habakkuk, it will not come in the time frame you want. However, though it linger, what did he say? Wait. Humor me, would you? Look at somebody next to you in your row, wherever you're at. Look at somebody and just say this. No, you're not playing along. Come on. I hate waiting. Yeah, don't we? None of us like to wait, especially with the invention of Amazon Prime. Everything should be 2 days or less. Like, anybody else like me? Like, if it's not there in 24 hours, you're freaking out. You're looking at it on you're like, where is it? Why is it not here? 2 days, you're mad. Like, you're just losing your temper then. Do you guys remember, dating myself a little bit? Do you remember back in the day, you couldn't get anything sooner than 6 to 8 weeks when you ordered it? Some of you are like, what? That was a thing? I know, right? Stone Age, man. We used to live there. Now it's 2 days. But it's ruined. Like, we don't like to wait for anything. We're people that are so impatient. We just want it and we want it now. The problem with waiting, the problem with the dip is it's all about when. And that's why we hate to wait, because there's no answer to the when. When, God, are you going to turn my marriage around? Okay, God, I trust you. I'm going to wrestle with you. But when are you going to heal her? When are you going to answer this? When are you going to fix that? When are you going to take away the anxiety? Do you know that even the why questions, I think, are ultimately when questions? Like, why does so much evil exist? When will good prevail? Why did you let them die? When will you bring some kind of sense out of this loss and this madness? Beauty from these ashes? Why did you let me get sick? When will you heal me? And so the difficulty with the dip is not just the reality of the pain that puts us there. It's the waiting and the waiting and the waiting and wondering if God's going to ever do anything and why in the world he's left us there so long. So how do you survive? How do you not end up like Aaron and we just start cutting ourselves off from God when we're in the middle of the dip, where we just go to a place of desperation and we let the dip destroy us instead of form us? Well, I think we take a couple cues from how you climb a mountain. I mean, this is the series. You know, when you're climbing a mountain, there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can top rope, you can belay, you can lead climb, but almost all methods of climbing, whether you're traversing up a wall or whether you're just hiking a mountain, require you, almost all of them, to be roped in. You have to be tethered in, either to the mountain, to anchors, to another person. There's just a reality that you need to be anchored in for the safest way to climb. Now, there are some people that don't. There are free soloists. Alex Honnold is probably one of the most popular, kind of leading that whole type of climbing, where he climbs with no protective gear, no ropes, no lines, nothing. In 2016, he actually scaled the face of El Cap and did it free solo. Like, this guy is crazy. I mean, he's impressive, but he's crazy. And everybody like him that has climbed as aggressive as him, at one point or another, you read the sad article that they fell and they died. So most climbing involves being tethered in. And I think in a very similar way, we have to tether in when we're in the dip. It's how we're going to survive it. And we've termed the idea of the dip off of the Hillary step on the south ascent up to Everest Peak. You know, there's this one spot where when you're going up, you have to climb, kind of, we said, in the dip down to go up, and it is sketchy as it gets. As a matter of fact, it has historically been one of the most difficult places that you have to traverse if you're getting to the peak of Everest. And it's just shy of the peak, which is almost like this big tease, because you can see the summit right there, but then you've got to go through one of the most difficult spots you have to get through to get to that summit, which is this place. And you don't go through this place unless you're clipped in. When you're in the dip, you have to clip in. And you can see it right there. Like, I mean, you look at the one on your right side. I mean, that's like a margin of error, right? You take a step 1 inch the wrong direction, climb over, like game over. You're done. So it is super important when you're in the dip, when you're in that Hillary step, you clip in. I think for you and I, the same is true. I think we can go through life spiritually and we can try free solo like Alex Honnold. Like, I'm just going to go on my own. Okay, fine. It's not how you've been made. It's not what God set us up for. We do need one another, but I will tell you this. You might be able to get by for a season till you hit the dip. When you hit the dip, I don't think we survive if we're not clipped in. And I think clipped into a few specific things. For example, number one is I think we have to learn how to clip into other people. You know, one of the interesting things about climbing this particular mountain is that you aren't just clipped into the mountain. There are moments that you're clipped into everybody and you share the experience. Now, you go back to Habakkuk, I think this was part of what God was even saying to him towards the end of the chapter. We're going to bounce back again from the end, but I want to go to verse 20 for a minute. It says here, the Lord speaking to Habakkuk, "The Lord is in his holy temple, so let all the earth be silent before him." Now, who's bringing the accusations against God right now? Habakkuk is. What's interesting is that God doesn't say, Habakkuk, you be silent before me. He says, let all the earth be silent. In other words, almost as if to indicate, listen, this is a shared experience that humanity will have. And so my answer back to all of this needs to be a shared listening ear. Like, I'm going to say this to all of you. Be silent before me and listen to what I have. As if to suggest that we're all in this, that we will all go through these moments. So we all need to hear what it is that God has to say to us. This is part of what's happening in the Hillary step, is that there is a sharedness to the experience that I think we can learn from in the church world. Like when you climb Everest, you don't get to the summit without going through the Hillary step. Like, there's just no way to do it. You have to go through there. So I asked for a service, and everybody said, no, I'm just going to just see this service. Anybody ever climb Everest? No? I mean, it's a good-sized church. There's a possibility. Okay, nobody has. So that means when we talk about going through the Hillary step, it's all theory. Like, you and I have no idea what we're actually talking about. It's just a concept. But if you know, you know. Like, if you've been there, like, you get it. And you become a part of a very small and elite group of people that have a shared experience that if you've done this, you share that experience. Like, you get it. You get the joy of it. You get the challenge of it. There's no mystery. Like, there just creates a connection between you because you've been in that place together. The church should be a very similar kind of experience because nobody gets to the summit after the summit after the summit of experience and pursuing God without going through dip after dip after dip. And yet, when we walk into the church world, what do we often do? We put on a front. We put on a face. Like, we pretty it up for church. I'm good. Everything's great. Like, we seldom bring the truest, realest, rawest, most gritty parts of who we are to bear, to God or to one another. We've learned, sadly, in the church world that it's not safe to do that. And so what we present to one another is the cleaned up church version of ourselves. Not the questions, not the wrestle, not the doubt, not the struggle, not the frustration, not the anger with God. We don't know what to do with that. And so oftentimes what we do is we wrestle in secret, if we even wrestle. We weep alone. We have our Habakkuk moments of questioning God, doubting God, wrestling with God in private. That's why sometimes there will be people that we know in the church world that will go one day like, hey, what happened to so-and-so? Have you seen them? No, I haven't seen them. What happened to them? I don't know. Well, what happened was they wrestled, and they wrestled in secret, and they lost, and they walked away because they never knew how to actually bring to bear the fact that they were wrestling into the place where there should have been the shared experience of us all going, Man, I've been there too. Me too. And had the safety to be able to be that kind of real and vulnerable. I mean, even when we come to church, we often see each other. We're like, hey, how you doing? And what do we respond? Good. No, you're not. Sometimes, yeah. And sometimes, no. But what would happen? I mean, what would you even do? If you saw somebody on a Sunday morning, you're like, hey, how you doing? And the response was, well, this week's really been crappy. I hate my job. I might lose it. My wife and I can't stop fighting. I'm probably drinking too much. I'm definitely drinking too much lately. My kids, I'm not giving them any attention. I'm letting some temptations overwhelm me that shouldn't. I've cried out to God. I don't think he cares. And I've actually wondered a few times lately if I even want to be alive anymore. You'd probably be like, I'm going to go get Josh. I'll be right back. Like, what would we do with that kind of honesty? The church should be the number one place in all of the world where it's okay to not be okay, to a gritty, grimy degree. Where it's okay for us to go, I'm in the dip, and here's everything about how I feel about it right now. Because you know what? If you're pursuing Jesus, you either are or have been in a dip too. And there should be that shared experience that then creates a safe place for us to all go, hey, been there too. And there should be no other place like this place to be that real, that honest, and that vulnerable with each other. And I've got a couple of those people in my life. My wife and I, we've got a group of people right now in our life. There are 4 couples that we all started kind of our friendship together close to 30 years ago before any of us had kids. Now I think there's like, I don't know, was there like 16 kids, 18 kids between all of us? Like we've grown into a tribe. And we have been through everything together. Marriage struggles and issues, and we've buried family members, and we have wept with one another, and we have laughed with one another. And I mean, we've just been through, I mean, these people have been our lifeline. They have been the people we have clipped into. That there have been moments that we have found ourselves in dip that I'm telling you, had it not been for those people that we were clipped into, that would let us be the rawest, truest version of ourselves that we needed to be in different moments, I don't know how we would have made it. People that don't shame us for having the questions and the doubts and the struggles, that don't make us feel like we got to pretty it up, that don't push us away because of it. Don't make us feel like we're failing Jesus because of it, but instead welcome us in and go, us too, so let's journey together, clipped into one another. You know, that's part of the reason we do small groups here. It's not just to have another metric, to go, oh, and we've got X amount of people that are doing that. Like, it is really to say, hey, we're going to help create relationships, create spheres. Do you know the church is probably the easiest place in all the world to make friendships? That's like half of what we do as a church is try to create space and opportunity to make friendships. And you might go, dude, I've tried to make friendships and it didn't work. I didn't get a call back, or I joined a group and they were weird, or yeah, we've all been there, that's fine. But keep pressing in. Every group isn't the place where you're going to connect. Every person isn't the person that's going to be your pallbearer one day. But I'm telling you, there are people in the body of Christ that are put there as the same reason you're there, to clip into one another and make this journey together. And I'm just telling you, if your experience of Ridgepoint is largely come in on Sunday morning and go home and be mostly unknown and distant from people and relationships, you are climbing in a dangerous way spiritually. And like a free soloist, you might be able to get away with it for a while, but I'm telling you, there will come a point where if you're not clipped into other people, you will fall off. And I know so because it's how God made us. It is not good. In the beginning, he said this, for man to be alone. God identified in the very beginning of his creation that there is a danger in our aloneness. And so I even want to encourage, if you're not in a group, like part of what I want to challenge you to do today is you walk out of this room, you go to our next steps tables, and you ask about how to get into a group. Or you scan the codes in front of you, the digital hub, and you explore how to get into a group. Because this is not just about doing church stuff. This is about how do we scale the mountain of Jesus? How do we pursue God to the fullness of what he has made available to us? And how do we survive when everything goes upside down? Well, one way, you clip in. And you clip into other people. But I don't think that's the only way we clip in. I think the other way that we have to also clip in is not just to relationships around us, but I think we also have to learn in the moments of the dip especially, we've got to clip into a picture of a better day to come. You know, when you're in the dip, all you can see sometimes is the dip. You know, our head goes down, we get depressed, we get sad, we get overwhelmed with it, and it's all we see. We get tunnel vision, and all we can see is the frustrations in front of us. All we can see is what's overwhelming us. I love part of what Habakkuk says when he says, I'm going to stand on the ramparts. He's saying, I'm going to get myself up above my circumstances. I'm going to actually look to the horizon. I'm going to look outwards to see what I don't yet experience that's coming. And there's a reality that part of what God does is he says, hey, I'm going to give you a picture of that. I'm going to actually paint a picture of a different day to come. If you go back to the text, this is what we read. Verse 14, for the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. That's not this day. That's not the day Habakkuk's having right now. Right now, the earth is not filled with the knowledge and the glory of the Lord. It's filled with the Babylonians that are destroying everything. So he's painting a picture of something yet to come. And he goes on and he says, woe to him who gives drink to his neighbors, pouring it from their wineskin until they are drunk so that they can gaze on their naked bodies. So what he's talking about is people that take advantage of other people. This is the Babylonians. So he's specifically talking about how they are taking advantage of all the nations around them, in particular Israel in this moment. But this is what he says will come to pass for them. You will be filled with shame instead of glory. Now it's your turn. Drink and let your nakedness be exposed. The cup from the Lord's right hand is coming around you, and disgrace will cover your glory. The violence you have done to Lebanon will overwhelm you, and your destruction of animals will terrify you. For you have shed human blood. You have destroyed lands and cities and everyone in them. So he's giving this picture to Habakkuk saying, listen, it's not going to happen in your time frame. Right? Remember, though it linger, wait, there is an appointed time. And here's what he's telling him is going to happen in this appointed time. So he's like, it's not going to happen in your time frame. But Habakkuk, there is a better day coming. You know, Aaron, who I started with, the guy who got his arm pinned with the boulder, in one of the interviews I saw with him, he said that there was a point on day 5 where he knew if he didn't do something, like this was it, he was just going to die there. And he was almost as resolved to just lay down on that rock and die there as he was to figure out how to get out. And here's what he said thrust him forward to say, okay, I'm not dying on this rock, is that he began to get this mental picture in his head of having kids and being a one-armed dad. The funny thing is he had no wife at the time and no kids. This wasn't him drawing on a present memory. This was him completely creating a version of his future that didn't yet exist. And it's what gave him the ability to say, I'm going to live for that future. I'm not going to die in this reality. And then do the horrific and be able to amputate his own arm. And I think in a spiritual sense, we have the ability to do the same. God gives very practical things to Habakkuk to say, hey, it's going to get better, Habakkuk. The Babylonians are not always going to have the run of the day. I'm not going to tell you when. It's going to take too long in your time frame because that's why you've got to wait. It's going to feel like it lingers, but there is an appointed time, but it's going to get better eventually. So what is that message to us, though? Because there's no specific message that promises that your life is going to get better if you're in the dip. I think even to my friend Lee, I mentioned him briefly last week when I talked about one of my moments of wrestling with God being a funeral I did for a woman weeks before I was supposed to do her wedding. The story of that is my friend Lee, if you go back many years before that, got married as a young man in his 20s. 6 months into his marriage, he got hit by a train. There was no railroad crossing that came down, no lights, didn't see it. He crossed, the train hit him, T-boned him right into his vehicle, practically split the car in half, put him in the hospital, fought for his life for a number of weeks, finally got on the other side of whether or not he was going to survive, but he ended up in a full body cast, literally from his chin down to his ankles, his arms, full body cast for 6 months. So brand new wife, brand new marriage for 6 months. Had to clean him, feed him, bathe him. And then even once he got out of that, for years now, he has struggled with pain. Most of his body is made up of metal and plates and screws. He will be riddled for the rest of his life with pain. Some days severe and crippling, and other days just manageable, but always painful. So Lee would get past that. He'd get out of that dip. Years later, his wife and him would develop this ministry at our church where they would reach out to prisoners and they would begin to develop relationships with men and women who are incarcerated and help them on the other side of getting out of prison to be able to reestablish life. And in the ministry that they had created, his wife formed a relationship with one of these guys that ended up turning into an affair. And so she ended up leaving him and absolutely crushed him. And so he was in a dip again. Well, that was years after that Lee met Patty. And Patty and Lee were the kind of couple that everybody that knew them was like, man, you two should have been a thing from the beginning, like hand in glove. Like you guys just, wow, perfect. So when they came to me, I mean, I'd known Lee's story for years and we had been friends for years. I'm like, man, I would be honored to marry the two of you. Patty came from a super abusive marriage and Lee from his story. And so we had planned their wedding. And then one night while Lee and Patty and a group of friends were hanging out, went back to Lee's house, her ex-husband had broken into the house. And the minute she walked through the front door, he took her life. And then proceeded to go into Lee's bedroom and take his own. How do I say to a guy like Lee, hey, it's going to get better, when it seems like every couple years it gets horrific? Like how could I say to Lee, hey, Lee, you got to paint a better picture of tomorrow. Hey, 2026 is going to be your year. Well, what if Lee has another tragedy again? Because that seems to be his story. And I know for some of you, that's felt like your story. So here's what we need to do then. I'm not saying we clip into a better picture of this reality. I'm saying we clip into a better picture of the ultimate reality to come. The book of Revelation, Jesus makes it very clear. This world does not have the final say over our lives. Revelation chapter 21. And then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away. There was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as the bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. And he will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death, no more mourning, no more crying, and no more pain. This next sentence is one of the best sentences in the whole Bible. For the old order of things has passed away. And then he said, he who was seated on the throne said, I am making everything new. You guys realize we're living in the old order. The old order is our present reality. It's where cancer seems to win, and it makes no sense. It's where there is abuse and wars and starvation and children that suffer. It's where there's depression and sadness and anxiety. It's where everything goes wrong and upside down. It's where life doesn't make sense and often God doesn't make sense. This is the old order. We're living in it right now. Here's the promise of God. One day, this order goes away and he recreates a new order, and it's the only order to ever be known then. You know, right now, the Bible paints Jesus doing this. He is sitting down in his throne. You know, there's only one reason a king sits in his throne, maybe two. Your kingdom's at a time of peace, or you're being patient. Our world is not at a time of peace. Our king is being patient. But his promise is this. The old order will not be the forever order. And one day our king will stand. And when he stands, his promise is he's going to put his foot down hard in the middle of everything that is broken about this order, and he's going to wipe it clean. And he's going to create a new heaven and a new earth, and he's going to restore the order that was always intended to be. And I know that that doesn't always feel great when we're saying, no, I want my order right now to be better. But I also know this, we put way too much stock in the simple, short, 70-plus years that we have to live compared to the eternity of God, where there is a new order to be experienced, where there is no cancer, there is no crying, there is no loss, there is no suffering, there is no abuse, there is no hunger, there is no Satan, because he's chained to the wall of his own broken hell, and it is all done, gone, and over. And I think part of how we get through the dip is we as men and women stand on the hope that this order has been broken by the cross of Jesus Christ and one day will be replaced. C.S. Lewis once said this: if you read history, you will find that the Christians who did the most for the present world were precisely the ones that thought the most of the next. I don't suggest that we walk around with our kind of head just in the clouds. God has put us here in this world to make a difference in this world, to be in this world but not of this world. Like, this is where he has placed us. But at the same time, our hope is not this world. And it is to, in the moments where life doesn't make sense, to stay with him, to clip to him, to cling to the hope of his eternity, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it hurts, and hear him say to us, on the other side of this, there will be power, there will be glory, there will be majesty, there will be a new order to come, and this one won't win. I think you're in the dip. You got to clip to that hope. Because we don't have a guarantee of what tomorrow is, but we do have a guarantee of what the day after tomorrow is for eternity. Last clip that I think we've got to make is simply this. I think when we're in the dip, I think we determine not to waste these moments of life, and we ask God, how do I clip in to the reality of becoming a better climber? Like, how do I clip into the honesty in my own life of saying, there's got to be ways I can get better at this, and I don't want to waste this season. Help me become a better climber. For example, 2016, first woman to ever summit Everest without oxygen, American woman, was a woman by the name of Melissa Arndt. Now, I don't know if you realize this, but summiting Everest without oxygen is almost impossible for most people. Of the 72-ish hundred people that have summited Everest, only about 3% of them have ever done it without oxygen. What most people may not know about her story, though, that even know her story, is that it took her 6 attempts to finally do it. Here's what she said in one article I read. Every attempt up Everest, I could see that I was growing as a climber. And in the end, I realized you don't have to be exceptional to do this, but you do have to have exceptional perseverance. And so she would go on in the same article to talk about how every climb that she went on, she got a little bit better. She learned how to traverse the mountain a little bit differently. She learned where to put her foot that she didn't put her foot last time, where not to put her foot that she did put her foot the time before. And after 6 attempts, she got better at it and was able to accomplish it. I have gone through too many seasons of a dip in my own life that I think I've wasted. Where God has met me there, He has been gracious to me there, I've gotten on the other side of it, but I was largely who I was leaving the dip as when I went into the dip. I didn't come any better of a climber. Last verse out of the book of Habakkuk, this is part of what God says to Habakkuk. See now that the enemy, they're puffed up. His desires are not upright, but the righteous person, they will live by faithfulness. Part of what I think God is indicating to Habakkuk is, hey, in this moment, in this season, like even though things aren't working out the way that you want, you've got a choice, Habakkuk. Will you be like the Babylonians, whose God is their own strength, or will you be like what he just described, the righteous that are living by faithfulness to who? To God. Like, who will you be, Habakkuk? Who will Israel be? So that's my question to me. It's my question to us. Like, when we're in a moment of a dip, who do we want to be on the other side of it that we weren't when we went into it? Like, I would just say, let's not waste the moments of a dip. They can be a season that can actually transform us, not just one that we can survive. It can actually transform us if we let God meet us in a special way. If we actually say to him, all right, God, and I go into this, like I want to cast off the bitterness, the anger, the resentment, the pride, the judgment, whatever it is, whatever poison in my life that's keeping me from being more who you made me to be, I want it to die in the dip and not leave with me. Just like a mountain climber, the more times you're in the dip, the more times God has the opportunity to say, I'm going to keep forming you and crafting you and creating you to be more who I made you to be, like my son, Jesus Christ. But we've got to be willing participants in that. So that when we're in the dip, it will be painful, but it doesn't have to destroy us. It can actually transform us. And so we're going to sing a song this morning. We're going to do one more song that Lauren's going to come out and do for us. And I just want you to kind of sit there as she does this. But if you're not going to sit, here would be my invitation. Same thing we did last week. We have a team of people that are going to pray with us this morning and pray for you. And I want to ask you before you leave, part of how I think we can clip in even today is have the honesty and the vulnerability to come up and let us pray. If you got something that's stirring, you're like, hey, I don't want to take this into the week, this thought, this feeling. I don't want to go into the week without just laying it out before God right now. Like, let us pray. Let us listen. Let us be part of how we journey together in this moment. Here's what I'd love to have you even do. Matter of fact, I'm going to have you sit back down in a second. Would you just stand with me? I want you to pray this prayer with me for a minute. Part of what we're asking God to do is reshape how we even think about the dip when we're in it. So take your hands, just put them on your head right now. Just acknowledge, man, you got a brain, you got a thing up here that thinks, and sometimes it thinks in ways that you need it to be recorrected. So just say this with me as a prayer to God. Dear God, give me a new mind, a new perspective, and a new way of looking at my circumstances. That the dip, though it's painful, would transform me, not destroy me. In Jesus' name, amen. Listen, I don't know what your dip is, but I promise you, if you wrestle with Jesus, on the other side of it, there's a summit. Even though it will linger, wait. Even though it will be painful, trust him. He will take you to beautiful places you have never been. But you got to wrestle with him and wait with him in the dip to get there.
tainted heart. Take these tainted hands. Wash me in your love. Come like grace again. Even when my strength is lost, I'll praise you. Even when I have no song, I'll praise you. Even when it's hard to find the words louder than I'll sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. Take this mountain weight. Take these ocean tears. Hold me through the trial. Come like hope again. Even when the fight seems lost, I'll praise you. Even when it hurts like hell, I'll praise you. Even when it makes no sense to sing louder than I'll sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. I will only sing your praise. And my heart burns only for you. You are all I want. And my soul waits only for you. And I will sing till the morning has come. And my heart, it burns only for you. You are all I want. And my soul waits praise. Oh, I will only sing your praise. Oh, even when the morning comes, I'll praise you. Even when the fight is won, I'll praise you. Even when my time on earth is done, louder than I'll sing your praise. I will only sing your praise.
Would you stand and just let me pray for you before we go into our week? May the Lord bless you and may the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and may he lift up his countenance upon you and may the Lord give you peace. And so, Jesus, we just pray to you who are the peace giver. Some of us are walking in a very sweet season with you right now, and some of us are not. And so meet us in both places, I pray. Whether we're walking just tenderly hand in hand or whether we're wrestling fist to fist, would you meet us and would you walk with us in the gentle way that only you can? Or even if we're not walking with you at all, because we don't know what to make of you, then God, in the dip, reveal yourself. And would you teach us to be those who wrestle, that we would have on top of our faith, we would have a depth of relationship that is so sustainable that though the earth pass away under our feet, we would still be able to say, the Lord gives, the Lord takes, but blessed be the name of the Lord. And so it's in your name, Jesus, we pray. Amen. All right, y'all, let's go and wrestle.